Most of us are aware that we shouldn't refer to, let's say, a child being naughty, because potentially that label can mean that the child can't separate themselves from behavior. It's not them that's naughty. Their behavior may not be appropriate, but they themselves are not naughty. But how many times have we heard phrases still used that we know potentially create this element of shame, that I'm not good enough, I'm bad? We use it sometimes without realizing. Maybe you've caught yourself, or maybe you don't know whether you have or not. Here's the truth. Shame doesn't necessarily teach better behavior. It teaches people, or it can lead to people believing that they are their behavior. And that's a dangerous lesson to learn. Today, we're talking about why shame is still widely used as a behavioral tool, but why it may be ineffective and actually make things worse, and what we should do instead. If you are caring for someone else, whether paid or unpaid, and no matter how many hours you do it, did you realise that you may be missing out on thousands of pounds of discounts for things that you may use every day? The Able to Care podcast is proud to be sponsored by the UK's #1 carers card. Started by two best friends who recognise that carers deserve better and are 100% committed to helping to change the lives of all carers and bringing them together as a strong community. Carers Card UK provides support, recognition and rewards. It offers reassurance by providing an ID card that helps access emergency information when needed, while also unlocking discounts, a wellbeing hub, a carers circle tool and a community through their app. All of this for less than the price of a box of chocolates a year. There are discounts on gym membership, days out, electrical goods, clothing and even glasses. Let others know you care while taking a little care of yourself with an ID card you can be proud of. Visit carerscarduk.co.uk/promo code/able to care today to order yours. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Able to Care podcast. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about shame. Now, one of the things is there are numerous behavioral disciplines out there, and some of them do utilize shame in a positive way, like restorative practice, restorative justice. But we'll talk very clearly, hopefully, and get over why shame sometimes is overused without realizing it, and actually it could be highly detrimental. There's a lady called Brené Brown, who I know many of you will be aware of, and I've referenced many times on my podcast, who talks about the danger of shame. That shame is, I am bad, rather than guilt, which is I'm good, but I did bad. And there's a big difference between those two. That if I feel I am bad, I'm in that fixed mindset, and therefore I can never be better. And that can lead us to, the kind of learned helplessness, and we'll talk about shame shielding and things like that, which means that I'm unable to learn and improve and grow and be better because I've just been labeled, well, this is me. This is who I am. This is my identity, which is not a positive thing. So I said, shame is a feeling that I am bad rather than that I did something wrong. And it's often used as a tool to discourage behavior through humiliation, isolation, sarcasm, public correction. So many parents or so many people I hear using shame kind of language, even if it's a case of, well, I warned you, as in you should have known better and you didn't. You chose to be bad. All this kind of thing all the time. There's no growth mindset there. It doesn't allow for an individual to improve, to grow. It's all about humiliating and shaming them for not being good enough. We need to be better in this. So examples that might be included is, let's say, a child being made to stand in front of the class or being told off in front of everybody else, making them feel belittled and humiliated and ashamed of themselves. A teen with additional needs being singled out for not following instructions, or being told that they need to grow up, or they need to do this, not do this, and say speaking in front of everybody else, feeling belittled, humiliated. Or what about even a care home resident being spoken to like a child, being spoken down to and infantilized because, oh, you're not going to get any pudding if you don't eat all of that. All of these things can lead to shame. And shame may stop the behavior or change the behavior in some way, but what's the long-term cost? This is a problem. So many of us are the instant gratification, want a short fix to something. And the problem is it can sometimes cause long-term detriment as a result. So what damage does shame really do? Well, it diminishes self-esteem. If people are internalizing the belief that they are broken or bad or not good enough or never get it right, that leads to them to self-esteem deteriorating. And lowering somebody's self-esteem isn't going to go, hey, I can be better, because you've diminished their self-esteem, which is going to tell them, this is all I am. This is all I can be. I can't be better. Hopefully, just hearing it in that context helps you realize how important this is, that we want to build self-esteem, and helping somebody to grow their self-esteem is usually going to lead to an improvement of behavior. You know, there's a quote that I refer to in my book, which is, I can't remember, I'm terrible for remembering who gives them, whose original quotes they are. But it's, you know, treat a man as they are, they'll stay as they are, but they treat as they could be, they'll become what they should be. And that's it. We're just telling them, hey, see, look, you messed up again. You were bad. Look how you should be humiliated. Then we're just going to get repeat offending. It also breeds secrecy, not growth. If I make a mistake, but I feel ashamed of that mistake, it means straight away I'm going to potentially try and hide it from others rather than being able to take responsibility for that mistake and go, hey, I messed up. We all mess up sometimes, but I'm getting better and I'm trying. If someone fears shame, they hide behavior instead of trying to improve it. It can also escalate behavior as well. Those who feel worthless may act out more because they believe they have nothing to lose, or how else are they meant to feel important? How else are they meant to feel like they matter if the only way they seem to get noticed, or the only way they seem to get any kind of acknowledgement? It may be bad, but it's better than nothing at all. It also breaks trust. If I think you understand me, if I think I have a connection with you, if I think that, hey, we really connect, we're really close, but then you shame me in some way, it creates a disconnect. It creates a distance. Like, you hurt me. You didn't just make, you weren't just correcting my behavior. You caused me emotional pain. And that wasn't I caused myself emotional pain because you shamed me. This is a difference between shaming and natural consequences, or learning from mistakes, and the way we put it across. Learning from mistakes is really important. Consequences are really important. Shaming can be really detrimental. Shame can corrode every part of us that believes we are capable of change. That's a quote from Brené Brown. I'm going to say that again. Shame corrodes the very part of us that believes we are capable of change. Shame silences, it doesn't teach. It suppresses and often backfires. So why is it still used and why it persists? Well, many of us were raised with shaming behavior. So we tend to just follow previous scripts. We tend to follow the same way that we were managed. We then tend to manage others, because unless we've gone out and researched and learned or changed our views or exposed ourselves to a different way of thinking, we're just going to copy what has happened. Now, I know there's many who go, well, it never did me any harm. But unfortunately, all statistics show that isn't true. We're struggling more, behavior is deteriorating further and further, yet everybody's saying they're using the same strategies. And also then people are experiencing more mental health challenges than ever before. So it feels like it works because it creates instant compliance, but it doesn't create learning. I don't want a child to use good manners because they'll feel so ashamed of themselves if they don't, or they're scared of the shame that might be put on them if they don't. I want them to just recognize it as a really positive, pleasant way of interacting with other human beings that actually has some potential benefits of building connections and relationships. Isn't that the lesson we want? I want a kid who isn't scared not to say thank you. I want a kid who recognizes that thank you is just a nice thing to say. So it can cause short-term compliance shaming, but it also leads to long-term behavior. It doesn't lead to long-term behavioral change. In overstretched settings as well, when people are struggling, I'm afraid shaming is sometimes a shortcut. It also tends to be used as an emotional response. Like, I warned you, if I get angry, I'm going to try and shame you. I'm going to put you down. I'm going to criticize you because I'm feeling angry in this moment. So if I'm angry, then I might try and hurt you in some way. Now, this isn't bad people who are doing this. Please don't misunderstand me, but we often do, fight, flight, freeze. If I'm in an emotional state, I'm going to go into fight, flight, freeze, and fight is an attack. I'm going to attack your person. I'm going to attack who you are. I'm going to attack what you've done, because that's part of the fight response. How many couples in an argument throw nasty comments to each other? Sometimes they're said, it just seems just to hurt. It's not about the argument, it's just to hurt. It's part of the fight response. It's like throwing a punch. It's easier, it's faster than empathy, and it's easier than understanding. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's effective or ethical or makes things better. So what can we do instead of shaming? Even in environments that use shame, what they do is they help people to explore their own shame and to overcome that shame together collaboratively. To recognize, rather than shielding their shame, blaming everybody else for the mistakes they've made, it allows people to be able to cope with that emotional shame and then overcome it and realize it could be more. That takes a lot of work as far as helping somebody with a growth mindset to kind of develop that, hey, this isn't your permanent state of being. You can be ashamed of your behavior without knowing that that's just what you are and what you do. That you can then overcome that. You can make amends to that behavior and can be better, which is kind of restorative practice. But separate the behavior from the person. Say the choice wasn't safe, not you're being bad. Say, I didn't like your behavior, not you're being naughty. Not saying you're horrible, just saying, I didn't like what you said. Try to utilize as well natural consequences, because natural consequences let the outcome teach the lesson, not humiliation, not degrading, not belittling somebody in front of everybody else, not trying to show everybody else how this person isn't good enough. Let the natural consequences kind of feed out, but also try to understand why that behavior, why that action occurred in the first place, to hopefully work with people to find better ways of coping with their emotions, for communicating their needs, for interacting with others. Our aim should always be to teach, not to punish. Respond with curiosity, not condemnation. Even when a child goes, struggling with a consequence or struggling with a boundary, rather than going, I warned you, or you need to learn to do as you're told, go, hey, you're really struggling with this. But I get it. It's horrible being told what to do. But I promise you, I'm coming from a place of caring, not a place of anger or hatred. I'm just looking out for you. But we'll figure this out together. We'll keep learning. It's not condemnation. Mistakes are stepping stones in learning. I'm going to make mistakes throughout this life. I'm going to do things wrong. So help me to do things better, not humiliate me for making a mistake. There is so much out there as far as that I genuinely get upset about by, why is I don't know ever a bad answer? There are far too many people who think they know the answer or just say without really understanding, without ever really truly exploring, without really investigating. They just pretend to know things, or they just act with certainty when they're actually working from a place of ignorance. I don't know is a great answer to certain questions. It's an honest admittance of ignorance, and then they can explore what they need to know rather than just thinking that ignorance is a bad thing. They should know, and therefore, then they never explore what the true answer is or try to understand their thoughts and feelings and beliefs in more detail. With any action, we want to try and repair and reflect afterwards. After behavior, work with a person to understand the impact and explore better choices. So if a pupil lashes out, instead of yelling in front of peers, quietly support the escalation, then later reflect. What was going on there? What were you feeling in that moment? What was wrong for you? What were you hoping would happen through your behavior? And how could you achieve that differently next time? It's working with collaboration. It's a whole teaching experience. We'll do an episode another time on kind of reflection and things like that. But I want you to really think about how often we potentially use humiliation, degrading behavior, language, putting a person down, criticism, when they are struggling to either manage their emotions, communicate their needs, to find the best way of succeeding in what we want them to achieve, rather than exploring with them and working with them. There's so many people out there who talk about they want a better society, and they put all these societal blames on, look at the state of society. That's because there's not enough discipline anymore. There's not enough, it used to be smacking kids was, the right thing to do, sorted the kids out. We're being too soft with them now. I'm afraid that comes from a massive level of ignorance, that people are incredibly disconnected. They are not recognizing how that they can be accepted and feel connecting. And, if I'm part of a community, why would I do bad things to that community? If I feel part of I feel close, I feel connected, I feel loved, I feel nurtured, I feel social connection and feel self-esteem, then I'm not going to act out and behave negatively. Happy people don't kick off. Now, I don't like the term kicked off, as you recognize, but when people are acting in antisocial ways, it means something is wrong. And trying to solve that so they need to be dominated into behaving right and shamed into knowing what's good and what's bad. Well, let's try and show them what's good and what's bad by acting in good ways and compassionate and empathic ways. If we just use obedience and authority to get individuals to do what we want them to do, if we only use shame to get people to do what we want them to, what are they going to use on us when potentially they're the ones in power? Something to think about. If you found anything that was spoken about in today's episode useful or interesting, then please like, comment, and share. And hey, if you disagree with me, if you think, corporal punishment is the way, then make a comment. I'd love to have an interaction. You take care. Cheers.